I'm Dan Ackerman, and we are here with the new 11.6-inch version of the MacBook Air. We've gotten a little bit of time to play around with it now, so we have a better feel for it. It kind of feels like a mix between a traditional MacBook Pro and the sort of premium netbook style 11-inch systems we've seen this year. Obviously very thin, very light, starts at about 0.68 inches in the back, tapers down very narrow in the front. The 13-inch version actually has the same thickness. You don't really get a big discount in that area by moving to the 11-inch version, but they're still both very slim. There's a couple of interesting notes about the 11-inch version. It is the first MacBook that we've ever seen with a 16:9 display. There's actually a 1366 by 768 native resolution display. That's pretty much the laptop standard now for anything between 11 and like 15 inches. You've also got a very familiar flat, widely spaced keyboard. If you have any other MacBook experience, you'll recognize this. And of course the same large multi-touch touchpad, and of course it uses the same sort of multi-finger gestures that the other MacBooks all use. If you're familiar with the original MacBook Air, you'll be pleased that instead of just one USB port, there are now two USB ports, one on each side. There's no SD card slot on this 11-inch model, however. Internally, this is actually a lot closer to the white $999 basic MacBook than anything else. It's got an Intel Core 2 Duo processor from that older line, along with NVIDIA's 320M graphics, rather than something from the newer Intel Core i3, i5, i7 line. It's an ultra-low voltage version of that processor, but it still seemed pretty zippy in our anecdotal use. And the NVIDIA graphics are at least as good as what you'd find on the white basic MacBook, which is perfectly adequate for basic gaming. Inside, it's basically all battery. They've taken the hard drive. It's an SSD drive, but it's the flash components inside the SSD drive. They've just kind of soldered those right onto the motherboard rather than having it in a traditional hard drive case, so there's more room inside for batteries, and you should get about 5 hours of use on this, and Apple claims if you just close the lid and leave it alone, it has up to 30 days of standby time, which is actually kind of similar to what you'd get from an iPad. And one more iPad-like feature that Apple was eager to point out is what they call Instant On. So if we take the laptop and we shut it down, as you know, when you boot up your Windows PC, your laptop, your desktop, there's definitely 45 to 90 seconds, maybe even more, to get it to boot up. And Macs are a little bit quicker, but really not that much. So with this new Instant On, once the laptop is powered off, like it is now, if I just hit the power button, let's see how long it takes to turn on. If I have one or two design issues with the new MacBook Air, it's that there's no backlit keyboard, which we've kind of gotten used to from a lot of MacBooks and even other laptops. In fact, there's a big blank spot right here on the F5 key where the backlighting button is on other MacBooks. And we also missed the edge-to-edge glass over the display that's on a lot of other MacBooks. Instead, you have this big, thick silver bezel that just doesn't look as good. Other than that, we've heard people asking for two big things from Apple over the last couple of years. One, a smaller MacBook, and two, a less expensive version of the MacBook Air, and this guy starts at $999. So Apple has pretty much combined those two wish list items into one system. I'm Dan Ackerman, and that's the new 11.6-inch MacBook Air.